The greatest economy ever constructed is openly telling you they want to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible. This continues to be a get long and chill environment. So specific on Bitcoin. Okay, let's move back to markets and how we've been doing this past week. We can take a look at Bitcoin over the past week just for reference. Really, of course, since I went on vacation to Puerto Rico, we had this huge giant sell off. Trump said we're doing a strategic reserve and it's going to include altcoins. We ramped back up. And then the very next day, sold right back off, ramped back up, sold back down. I think that might have been the bottom. 77K is a pretty good level. Now, I want to see us start to move back above 85K and hold it, because so far we just keep putting in lower high, lower high. I want to see this moving up into the right direction. But let's talk about Arthur Hayes. He says that 77K was likely the Bitcoin bottom, as quantitative tightening, which we talked a little bit about earlier, is effectively dead. So the Fed's quantitative tightening is basically over, which has cryptocurrency analysts feeling slightly more bullish about its implications for the crypto market. Bitcoin's unlikely to revisit the 77K price level anytime soon after the Fed signaled a slowdown in quantitative tightening. Was Bitcoin 77K the bottom? Probably, he said in a March 20th post after declaring that QT is basically over, following the Fed's March 19th announcement that starting in April, it will slow its securities sell-off by reducing the monthly treasury cap from 25 billion to 5 billion. So basically what that means, peel that onion a bit. Quantitative easing was the Fed adding a tremendous amount of assets to its balance sheet. The Fed was going into the market and buying and boosting prices big time. That was to try to kind of shore up the COVID issue, right? So they massively printed, massively added all those things onto its balance sheet. Well, the end of 2022, once they decided inflation was too crazy, not only did they crank rates at the fastest they've been since I've been alive in 42 years, they also started doing quantitative tightening. So now they started selling off assets from their balance sheets. There's been a constant, massive sell pressure in the US market by the Fed. So it slows its securities sell off by reducing the treasury cap from 25 to 5 billion. It means there's going to be far more liquidity. This could ease liquidity pressures and support risk assets like Bitcoin. Quantitative tightening involves central banks selling assets to reduce the money supply and possibly raise rates, which is what they've done over the past 2 years. It's been a regime of quantitative tightening since the end of 2022. So the next thing we need to get bulled up for is either the SLR exemption or a restart of quantitative easing. Quantitative easing is what pumped us during 2021, big time. So if we look at this chart, and it takes a while for quantitative easing and quantitative tightening to really get going. But quantitative easing started right here, right after the COVID candle of doom. They started easing. And once people got the picture that we are printing like record number of dollars here, right about October, it became real. That money hit the economy and boom, you could just see what happened. So if we start quantitative easing again, definitely not to this degree, but to some degree, that's what's going to provide us the fuel to really get going. This was the China bans Bitcoin sell-off. We immediately recovered that. But right about here, the Fed started making noises. Hey, we're going to start raising rates. This was quantitative tightening, this whole slope down quantitative tightening. All the way across, ironically. We've still been in a quantitative tightening regime, even though we hit new highs. So that's actually pretty interesting to watch. Now, let's continue on here. Echoing a similar sentiment to Hayes, Real Vision chief crypto analyst Jamie Coots said that QT is effectively dead. He explained that treasury volatility has calmed down following the US dollar's drop earlier this month, which is a positive sign for boosting liquidity. Remember, Bitcoin is all about liquidity. In fact, there we go. This is the global M2 money supply chart. Global M2 money supply is just how many units of currency exist in the world. And that is essentially a proxy for liquidity.